Mama Butterfly's Down Home Cooking. This week we're going to be making chicken and dumplings. This is a great recipe to use if you have a leftover chicken from the night before. As you see here, I have some leftover chicken that I saved from last night's dinner. We're going to be cutting this up, getting it all shredded and into this pot. I'm also going to dice up one onion and get that thrown into this pot as well, along with 2 small cloves of garlic. So let me get started. I'm just going to cut the end off of the onion, make a little slice down it. Get your knife in there, get it cut in half. I'm going to throw these away. Peel this other half. You want to get that outer layer off because it's very fibrous and it doesn't really break down when you're cooking it. You don't want these tough bits in there. Now we're going to take the onion and I'm going to stick my knife in. Now you notice we only cut the top end off. We left the bottom root part attached, and that's going to help as we're cutting the onion so that it doesn't all fall apart on us as we're cutting it. And I'm just going to get this diced up real quick. You want it kind of small pieces. You don't want big chunks of onion. So I've got the onion all chopped up, and now I'm just going to get it over here into my pot. I don't have the pot turned on yet because we're going to just get all this in the pot before we get it turned on. So now that I've got that in the pot, I'm going to take my garlic and I'm going to use the side of my knife and I'm going to smash it. Now this is going to allow me to be able to pull that outer fibrous layer off. Okay. I'm going to do the same thing with the other one. Get all that off of there. Because like with the onion, the same thing, that's not going to break down. And you don't want that fibrous piece in there. Now I'm just going to mince this garlic up real quick. Doesn't have to be too perfect, but you want it kind of small. You don't want to bite into a big old chunk of garlic. It's going to cook down as we're cooking the chicken. Even though the chicken's cooked, we're going to simmer it for a little while so that it gets nice and tender and just falls apart in your mouth. Okay, so we've got this all minced up. We're just going to scoop it onto our knife there and get it right into the pot with the onion. Okay. Now we're just going to debone this chicken. We're going to get it all off of the bone. And we're going to use the skin and all because that skin has a lot of seasonings on it. It's a lot of nice flavor. So we're just going to pull this all off the bones. Make sure you don't get any little bones left in there. Make sure you don't get any of the cartilage either because you know, that's not chewable. You don't want somebody biting into it and hurting a tooth. So we're just going to get the chicken off the bone here. And then once I get it all deboned, then we'll get it chopped up. So I've gotten the chicken all deboned. And now I'm just roughly chopping it up. It doesn't have to be too small of bites. It's all going to go into the pot, and like I said, it's going to simmer for a little while and cook down. So we're just chopping it roughly. I've gotten all the bones out of here. It's just the chicken meat and the skin. And like I said, that skin is going to add a layer of flavor because of all the seasonings and spices that we had on it from the night before. So I've gotten the chicken cut up, and now I'm just going to get it put into the pot here. Use my knife to get the rest of these little yummy nitbits off the cutting board here. Just going to give my hands a quick rinse. So my hands are clean now, and we've got everything in the pot. We've got the onion, the garlic, and the chicken. I've got a box of chicken stock. Now, if you have time to make your own, go ahead and make it. I didn't have time, so we're just using some box stock. We're going to get this box in here. Okay. And we also have a box of chicken broth. Now the stock I use because it has all the good vegetable taste in there as well as the broth. And then we just have the chicken broth itself here. And we're going to get all this in. And it looks like a lot of liquid, but as it cooks, that liquid's going to dissolve out. And plus we're going to be adding more vegetables and potatoes in here as well. We're going to get this on high. Let that get up to temperature. We're going to add some dried thyme, about half a teaspoon, right into the pot. We're going to sprinkle in some onion powder. And the reason that I use the onion powder, even though we have onions in there, sometimes it gets a little dried up and you just got to bang it. But the reason I'm using the onion powder along with the regular onions is because when they dehydrate the onions, it brings out that sweetness of the onion. So we're just adding that extra element in there. So I've added about a tablespoon of onion powder now. Now we're going to add some celery seed and about a quarter to a half of a teaspoon for that as well. We're going to add some paprika, just regular paprika, not the smoked. Probably about a teaspoon of paprika. Now, normal chicken and dumplings, I wouldn't do this, but I'm making it a little extra special tonight. I'm going to add just a little bit of saffron. It's going to give it a nice golden color. Just a few little threads. It doesn't take much. We're going to add one of my favorite spices, complete seasoning. You see, I use this in a lot of my recipes. It just has a lot of good flavor. And it looks like I'm adding a lot, but I'm only adding probably about a tablespoon in there. We're going to add some salt. And some fresh ground pepper. Lots of fresh ground pepper. Okay. Grab me a spoon here. Give this a stir. Get it all mixed together. So I'm going to bring this up to a boil. Okay. Once it comes to a boil, I'm going to turn it down to a simmer, and I'm going to get the lid on it, and I'm going to let it simmer for about 20 minutes. So this has been simmering about 15 minutes or so, and I'm just going to check it and see how we're doing. Smells delicious. So I'm going to add in now 1 chicken bouillon cube, and this is just going to give an extra depth of flavor, make it more rich, like we've been cooking it for all day. Stir that in, and it's going to get in there and dissolve, and that broth is going to get nice and rich. So now I've got these little baby potatoes, and I'm just going to chop them up into bite-sized pieces. Nothing fancy. About this, this size. Just a nice bite you can get on your spoon. So I'm going to chop a few of these up, and then we'll get them into the pot. Okay, so I've got these potatoes chopped up. And we're going to get the lid off of our pot here. And I've got a little bench scraper. I'm just going to scrape up these potatoes and take them right over into our pot. Just drop them in there. Give it a stir. Okay. We're going to put our lid back on. And this is going to cook for about another 20 minutes. In about 10 minutes, I'm going to come back and check it. See how the potatoes are. If they're just about tender, then we'll get our frozen veggies in. So this has been cooking about 15 minutes. I'm going to check it and just see where we're at. I'm going to find a little potato here. And we're just going to check. Oh yeah. Just spoon goes right through it. We're going to taste just to see if we have enough seasoning. Tiffany. So we're just going to taste it to check for the seasoning here. I think it could stand a little bit of salt and pepper. And I'm going to add just a little bit more thyme. And celery seed. Give that a good stir. And you'll see that nice golden, deep, rich color that we have. That's from that saffron that we added. Broth and taste. That's much better. Perfect. Okay, so now I've got some mixed vegetables here. You can use any mixed vegetables that you can find in your grocery store. I've got a, let's see, what size? 32-ounce bag of mixed vegetables. And I'm going to put about half the bag in here. So you're going to want about 16 ounces of mixed vegetables. That's about half the bag. We're going to give that a stir. Make sure they all get down in there. Okay. Now we're just going to let this cook for about 5 minutes just so those veggies get warmed up. And then we're going to thicken it, and then we're going to use canned biscuits to make the dumplings. I know it sounds crazy, but it works. Okay, so this has been cooking about 5 minutes now. It's just starting to come back up to temperature. I've turned the heat up to high. And that's because we want it to come to a boil so we can make the gravy thickened. And then also once we put the dumpling in, we want it to cook the dumpling. So you want that high heat. Okay? So what I'm going to do to make the gravy is I'm going to take about a quarter of a cup of milk. Okay. So this has been cooking for a little bit now. Those vegetables are starting to get tender. We're going to bring this back up to high heat because we want it to come to a boil so we can make the gravy. That way it'll thicken. What I've got here is a quarter of a cup of milk, and I'm going to add some cornstarch, a couple heaping tablespoons. Okay, we're going to get this mixed in. You want it to get all mixed together without making a mess like I just did. Okay, so my slurry doesn't quite look thick enough, so I'm going to add just a little more cornstarch in. I'm just going to kind of pour some in there, eyeball it. It's probably about another tablespoon. There we go. Now it's getting thicker. That's what we want. We want that thicker slurry so that when we put it into the liquid, it'll thicken right up. Make sure that you get it all dissolved in there because you don't want to get a big old clump of cornstarch. That won't taste very good. So I've got this stirred. Okay. As you can see, my pot has come to a boil. We're going to get our big spoon and we're just going to pour this in while stirring. Don't stop stirring while you're doing this. Otherwise, you're going to end up with a clump on the bottom of your pan, and that's going to taste terrible. So I'm just going to keep stirring this for a minute. Get it all mixed in there. And you'll see it's already started to thicken. Smells delicious. Okay, now that it's started to thicken, I'm going to turn it down just a little bit while we get the biscuits going. And you can make your own dumplings with the baking mix or bake them from scratch, whatever you want to do. I like to do this. It's quick and easy. Gets you in and out of the kitchen quicker so you have more time to spend with your family. Take this. You can use a spoon if you need to, but usually if you just pop it like that with your fingers, it's plenty. Now, what we're going to do is you can either use a knife and cut them up into little pieces, or you can just tear it. And that's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to tear it into pieces. Let me get these all torn up, and then we'll get them into the pot. Okay, so I've gotten the biscuits all torn up, and I'm just going to give this a stir, make sure it's not sticking to the bottom. And I want to taste it for seasoning again, because we've added all those vegetables, and they're going to suck up a lot of that salt and pepper. So I just want to make sure that the seasoning is at the level where we need it. I think it needs a little more salt and pepper. You've got to season as you go. You can't just throw it all in at the beginning and expect your food to taste good. You got to think of it as a layered project. You got to make sure you season every time you add something. Taste it and season it. Okay. Now I'm going to turn this down to low. We just want it to simmer. We don't want it to boil. And now we're going to take these biscuits that I've torn up, and we're just going to drop them into the pot wherever they kind of land there. And these are going to become the dumplings. And these are butter biscuits, and they've got little chunks of butter inside of them, and that's just going to add to that saucy gravy that we have going on here and be absolutely delicious. So I've gotten all the biscuits into the pot, and now we're just going to cover it and let it cook for 10 to 15 minutes. You want to make sure that those biscuits get cooked all the way through. I tore them kind of small, so I'm going to say probably about 10 minutes and they should be ready. Okay, so this has been cooking about 10 minutes now. Oh yeah, look at that. Those look delicious. I'm just going to give it a check here, make sure those are cooked through. And they sure look like they are. All right, so we'll go ahead and shut this off. Give this a stir. Mix those dumplings in with everything else. I wish you guys could smell this because it smells amazing. Okay, so I'm going to scoop me up a little dish of this. We're going to give this a little taste. Check and see how we did here. Get some of everything, a little vegetable, one of those dumplings. Nice, hearty, home-cooked meal. One pot, very little mess, using up your leftovers from the night before. You can do this also with turkey after Thanksgiving or Christmas. It's a great way to use up that leftover meat so it doesn't go to waste. I hope you guys enjoy this recipe. Please continue to follow my videos. Like our video page on YouTube. Like us on Facebook. And continue to follow us. Thank you to my wonderful husband who's doing the recording. And I look forward to hearing your comments, and if you guys have any recipes that you'd like for me to try out, give me a shout, let me know, and I'll see what I can do to make it happen. Love you guys.